You know, there's some things I left out that I'd never tell anybody. A couple of things we had to do, and I don't want to ever talk about those things because I just don't like to bring them back up. You know, most of the guys around me, almost, I would say, a third of my class at Heelan went to Vietnam, and 4 or 5 of them were shot up pretty good. And Tony Michalowski was killed. He was a tunnel rat. A guy who worked for my dad's son was killed. And then a guy I played baseball with for years, Ralph Balch, he was killed in Vietnam. 2 of them were killed by friendly fire. You know, so a lot of guys that came back that were not straight either. Hi, my name is Greg Freeman. I grew up in Sioux City, Iowa. I grew up in a family of 9 kids, and I was the 3rd oldest of the 9. I'd attended Heelan High School in Sioux City. School for me, I just was in school. You know, I wasted my time in school. I wasn't disruptive. I didn't, act out in class or anything. I just went to school. And if I couldn't get it done in school, I just didn't do it. That's all there was to it. I just didn't get done. Out of my junior year, you know, that was the height of the Vietnam War. It was about 65, 66, 67, 68. In my junior year, 4 of us got together and said, you know, we got to do something here because none of us were going to college and none of us wanted to be drafted because we knew we were going to end up in Vietnam. Okay, and it was really difficult to get in the Air Force at that time because everybody wanted to go to the Air Force or the Navy because of Vietnam. And if you're in the Army, most of those guys, within about 6 months after being drafted, they were in Vietnam. You know, the Army and the Marines, they used to call it, they said they went into the shit. I mean, those are the guys that were in the jungles and all that stuff. So I signed up, actually, before I was 18. Well, he put my name in before I was 18, and when I turned 18, I went down and signed the papers and stuff like that. And so we all decided to join the Air Force to see if we could all get in together and go to basic trainings together and all this stuff. So we did that, and one guy could not go. He failed his physical. The 3 of us got accepted, and I went to basic training in Lackland Air Force Base in Texas in San Antonio, where all Air Force guys went. Honestly, from that point on, after I went into basic, I never knew what those guys did after that. I didn't know where they went, or we really lost contact with each other. We were in a self-paced tech school, and they told us it was a 12-week school, and if they told us if we got through the school that we would probably get to go home on leave right after we did that. And so I got through the school in 4 weeks. I mean, I really crashed through that thing. I got it all done. I said, oh God, I get to go home now, you know. So I went home for 10 days because my younger brother got leukemia. My brother Steve called me and told me about that, and I had no idea what leukemia was. I really did not. And later on, about 1.5 years after I was in the service, he died, and I was in Italy, and I had to fly back home and all that stuff. And then they shipped me to Italy, and I was stationed on a base there, which was a listening post, and it was in Brindisi, Italy. There was a lot of mafia in the southern part of Italy, so you had to watch your step because they were everywhere. That's the only time I ever carried a gun in Italy was because we'd have to sit there because they would protest outside of the base and things like that, and they were afraid that they might overrun the base or something like that. And this is how I got to Vietnam. I want to explain this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that I was home on emergency leave because my brother had died. And my brother Steve had been drafted in the Army, and he was married, and they were going to have a child, and he had just finished college. And so I went there and stayed at, and what he did is he got orders to go to Vietnam, his group, and he was a medic. So he was going to be in a real tough situation. So when I got back to Italy, I knew a guy down in personnel, and those were where your assignments came from. And so I went down to him and I said, his name was Woos. His name last, I can't remember, it was Woos Man or something. We always called him Woos. I said, I need an assignment to Vietnam and I need it post-dated. And like if my brother's orders were dated the 1st of July, I needed a day before the 1st of July to cut those orders so my orders would precede his orders. And so he called up to Germany and he got me the assignment and everything, and they dated it one day before my brother got his, when he got his orders, and then they sent that to his base, and his sergeant came up to him and says, Freeman, you really left out. Your brother is going to Vietnam, so you can't go there. See, and that was at the time there was a rule called, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this rule, it's called the Sullivan Rule. And it comes from Waterloo, and all 7 of those brothers were killed on that one ship. And so they made that law. No brothers could ever serve in the same war zone. But at that time, so they canceled those orders. Because, like I told you earlier, I was going to be on a big Air Force base. I just didn't want him to go there because I didn't want him to have to go into the jungles and have people get shot up and they keep hollering medic, and he'd have to run back and forth from guys. And they were always targets. The medics were always targets. A week before I was going to Vietnam, I was sitting downstairs in our basement at home and I was watching the Tonight Show, and my dad came in and he says, you know, Greg, I got something we can do. And I says, what's that? And he says, you know, I've saved some money, and if you want, I can give you some money and we can drive you to Canada and you can go and live in Canada until the war's over. I says, wow, gee, Dad. And I thought, my dad. And I says, well, and then Steve would have to go. So we didn't gain anything from going down here. Yeah. Well, my dad was vehemently against the war. He was a World War II veteran, but he just, you know, what turned him around was that one of our good friends, his son was killed in Vietnam, and it turned my dad off from that. He said, we can't be fighting over 8,000 miles from home and having our guys get killed over this. This is ridiculous. So that's what started turning people off. People were getting killed. Too many people would get killed and hurt. First thing I remember, I flew into Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base, which was Saigon. It was the busiest airport in the world at that time. And we got off the plane and we walked into the terminal, and I looked to my left and there was a Marine sitting there, and he was leaning against the floor and he had his legs up like this, and he had his M16 wrestling like that, and this guy was a pit. He was filthy dirty, and I looked over at him, and this is the first time I've ever seen a pierced ear ring on a guy, and he had a little medallion in his ear and it said, war. And I went, holy shit, I'm not gonna hang around this guy. This guy is one scary dude. And I just kept walking. Well, I was supposed to be stationed in Saigon, but when you go to Saigon, Saigon was a horrible place to be because it was just so chaotic there, and a lot of strife between the GIs and the Vietnamese, because we weren't very good. But they didn't have a place, they didn't need me, so I sat there for like 3 or 4 days by myself, nobody, I didn't know anything or anybody. And then they came up to ship me to Cam Ranh Bay. And Cam Ranh Bay was about halfway up the coast between Saigon and Tan Son Nhut, or not Tan Son Nhut, Da Nang. And it was a big Air Force base, it was a big hospital base and stuff like that. And so I got in a C-130 and I flew into Cam Ranh Bay. And the second our plane stopped, we got a mortar attack. And mortars were popping all over the place. I had no idea what to do. I was out in the middle of the tarmac. I didn't have anything I could do, and all I was like say with these, they had these big metal bins for the jets, the big parking spots, so they wouldn't get shrapnel on them and stuff like that. And I saw one of those that was probably 100 yards away, and I took off. You know, I think I ran fast enough that, like Jesus, I could have walked across the water. I was really scared. I did not know what was going on. That was pretty interesting the day I got off there. So and then I went to the unit I was going to be stationed with, and they were with barracks, and they're all open air barracks. All had tin roofs on them. They had concrete barriers around them, about 5 feet high, and so that if mortars and stuff came in and they landed next to you, they explode and they want to come into the barracks and hit people and kill people. We flew reconnaissance missions over, typically we flew them over the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So we'd fly across Vietnam and we'd get on the trail. And what you had is linguists and things like that were listening in the air to see if they could hear. There's about 4 or 5 different dialects of Vietnamese, so they had each one was I want to say an expert. They could just pick up words that they knew from that, and we always had a Russian linguist on there because the Russians were aiding the North Vietnamese, and so we flew down through there, and then we landed in Udon, Thailand, dropped all our work off, turned around, flew back this way, back up the deal over the Ho Chi Minh and back over, and then we landed, and that's the way it went. So if you lost cabin pressure, that the pilot would have to drop down to like 15,000 feet to gain pressure, and then it got really dangerous because they could hit you with all kinds of things like that. At 30,000 feet where we were flying, there was no SAMs or anything like that. They were going to shoot you out of the sky with SAMs, so it would be more just they just didn't shoot at you because they couldn't reach you. And we had a couple of incidents of that. A guy forgot his oxygen bottle, and so we had to drop down. And I said, I don't want to go into that damn jungle. I just don't want to do that. Get you down and go in that jungle. I'd never survive that jungle. I'd die. So we shared bottles until we landed, and that's how we got back. So, and that happened twice. And the second time, the same guy did it. And now I was really pissed. Yeah, I really was. And so we got off the plane, and the guys that stayed in the service were called lifers, and there was always kind of a battle between first-term guys and lifers, you know. And so we got off the plane, and we were boarding again off the plane, and I said to him, his name was Steve French, and I said, French, if you do that, you gotta quit doing that. You're gonna kill one of us, and we're gonna kill us all. And he went, what are you, some kind of lifer, Freeman? So I pulled out my .45 and threw it up against the wall, and I says, well, you're not going to have to worry about it when you do it again, because I'm going to kill you if you ever do it again. They would allow us once a month to go visit a village or a orphanage with kids, because our parents and stuff would send clothes to us, old clothes, and for babies and everything like that. So about once a month we went there, and there was about 3 or 4 of us that went there. And one time we came around the corner and our truck got hit by about 4 shells. But bam, 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 like that. And of course we stopped, jumped out of that thing. You know, we weren't heavily trained here, guys. You know, we weren't an army or Marines. You know, we had 16 M16s, that's all we had. And most of us, I had fired several times, but most of those guys had not even fired an M16 since basic. And so it was scary, but we had a radio with us, and we called down there. We were taking fire, and they called. Who protected our perimeter? Our base was South Koreans. They were called Rocks, and so they called the Rocks, and he got on a helicopter, and about 4 or 5 of them came out. And when the Rocks showed up, the Vietnamese disappeared. They weren't going to mess with them because they were pretty brutal guys, and they always maintained I think it was a 9-to-1 kill ratio. If one South Vietnamese, this guy, they would go in the hills the next night and find nine guys to kill. That's what they would do. There was tons of drinking. I mean, we had guys that been in service 20 years, they got drunk every single night of the week. Get off work and go home and start drinking beer right away. You know, that kind of made me sick. I got kind of tired of that, you know. So I had a group of 4 or 5 friends. We played a lot of basketball, played football, softball, a lot of softball. We took 2nd place on a base of 15,000 GIs, and we had guys who would come in every month that were on temporary duty. They just stay there for 2 weeks, and then they would fly back to Okinawa. We only had 12 guys, no, excuse me. One time we had 18 guys in our outfit that were only permanent guys there. Well, we took second place in the base in softball that year. So that was really kind of cool. Didn't really do a whole lot otherwise. We didn't. We had a big movie theater that was, we had 2 or 3 of them that were, when they were big sheets of plywood, they painted white. And then the guy would show, a 35 millimeter film. We had bench, just little slot benches all over the place. So we go to the movie 2 or 3 times a week. They were kind of good. I like that a lot, going to the movies and stuff.
So obviously back home, controversy again had been around the war. Was there a mindset, presence of that while you were stationed in Vietnam?
Amongst guys, as us there, oh yeah, there was a lot of guys. Didn't want to be there, obviously.
Yeah.
But I never heard them complain that much. It was, racially, it was tough in Vietnam. We were stationed there, and we had, in our outfit, we had 1 black guy. That was it. The Army was probably 50-50, blacks and whites, and there was a lot of stress there. There was a lot of fights. One time they did not let you walk around the base unless you had 3 guys with you, or groups of 3s. You could not walk the base anywhere on the base by yourself, because they were trying to. There was racial tension for that. But most of our guys, a lot of us wore peace beads, wore a lot of necklaces and a lot of wristbands, and stuff like that, so we could walk around in there. And that was just kind of the thing that people did. Well, I think in certain parts of the country, I think as an Iowan, you came back and it was pretty acceptable. They just thought that you had to do what you had to do. You didn't have much of a choice in the matter. Most of the guys around me, almost, I would say, a third of my class at Heelan went to Vietnam, and 4 or 5 of them were shot up pretty good. And Tony Michalowski was killed. He was a tunnel rat. A guy who worked for my dad's son was killed. And then a guy I played baseball with for years, Ralph Balch, he was killed in Vietnam. 2 of them were killed by friendly fire. So a lot of guys, there are a lot of guys that came back that were not straight either. I remember getting on a plane leaving Vietnam, and I said to myself, well, now that's over. It's over. Well, I went home after there, and then I went to Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, and I ended my tour of Air Force. And then you turn a government over where, you make the government so pro-American that they start stealing. There's a lot of corruption, and so it really never reaches the people. Because a lot of high ministers would get wealth thinking, and we let that happen because we thought this would be the best way to do it. And we were always looking for a purpose, why we were there, trying to find a reason why we were there. And it turned out it never had to be done anyway, so.